Hello. So I wanted to get back on here today and do another I critique my writing video. For all of you who don't do jumping, I thought maybe you'd enjoy a quick critique on some of my just flat writing. I wanted to speak a little bit about just overall position, use of your hands, use of your tack, fitting of your tack, because these are all problems in these photos from '09. Most of my photos apparently are from 2009. So this was, I believe, my second year showing my paint horse Josie, the adorable Miss Josephine, in 4-H, and I was learning both English and Western. As I've said before, I'm not out to criticize anybody except myself. I take responsibility for not knowing any better, but there was definitely some mistakes made. So first off, if you don't have good instruction, seek good instruction, because your equipment can be detrimental to your horse, and just how you use your body and your hands can be incredibly painful and harmful to your horse, even if you're trying to be gentle. I was trying to be gentle, I just didn't know any better. So without further ado, let's pick apart my training session. So here we've got, let me get the glare off there. So you see I'm using a shank bit. It's a curb bit. It's not especially long shanks, but as you see here, I'm riding with two hands. While most trainers will tell you that you can pick up two hands to control or correct your horse in a curb bit, that really takes a lot more skill than we want to admit. I was kind of just taught to more or less just harass the horse to death with the reins, apply lots of pressure until her head dropped. As you see, she's carrying herself, like most horses will, just, head up and forward. And I was trying to achieve, Western pleasure, slow down, put your head down, showing in 4-H. So that's what you get awarded for, is slow horse with a head in the dirt. And my horse didn't know how to do that. So I was trying to teach her that. But if you check a couple of other things here, look at my saddle. Let's see if you can spot what's wrong with the balance of my saddle. Can anyone else tell that it looks a little low in the front? The pommel underneath the horn looks quite low and close to her withers. I think this saddle is too wide. So it's likely digging in to the back of her shoulders and sinking down onto her spine. If that's the case, she's most certainly not going to slow down, lift her back, lower her head, and engage her hind end, because the saddle would just dig in tighter. So saddle fit should have been addressed, right? That's not a good fit. Okay, on the note of my hands, I'm using two hands, and notice how wide and far back they are. I have one hand clear back at my hip, my other one's down by my knee. Why on earth are my hands so far back? Well, my reins are way too long. So here's a line of thinking that I think a lot of Western riders especially can fall into. We know we get awarded for having that nice loop in the rein when you're competing. If the horse's head is low and they're maintaining their pace, it shows that you have control when you have loose reins. So having a loop or slack in the reins is the goal we're going for. But if we don't know how to achieve that, we're going to try to do it by just having really long reins. And what happens when your reins are really, really long is you end up having to pull your arms back in order to make contact with the bit to get control of your horse. So that's what I feel like was happening here. I was trying to get her to slow down. You can tell by her mane blowing in the wind. She's booking along pretty quick. She's cantering, at her normal canter pace. And I wanted her to do that cute little Western lope, and she didn't know how to do it. So I thought, well, if I just pull my hands back behind my body and just tug, tug, tug on the reins, I'm going to get her to drop her head and slow down. It didn't work. She never slowed down. Also, if you can see, my upper body is a little bit tense and pitched forward. My shoulders are kind of stiff and awkward. That's because my reins are so long. I'm having to pull my arms way back behind me. And my stirrups are also just a bit short. I prefer a little less bend in my leg. And finally, you see my right foot is twisting out. I'm bracing on the stirrup. So you can tell I'm not in balance. I'm not relaxed and riding the motion of that canter. Instead, I'm trying to hang on with my calves. Here's another example from the same ride. My eyes are up, so that's positive. My shoulders are still a little bit awkward because of my arm position. Look how wide my hands are. That does not work. It doesn't work, especially not on a shank bit, not on a curb bit. So if you don't already know, a curb bit is different from a snaffle because the curb bit has a shank. The mouthpiece is here. The bridle hooks on up higher. I don't have one on hand, sorry. And then the reins attached down here. And so it pivots when you activate the reins. It pivots back, which engages the curb strap. It engages the pole over the crown piece. It engages the bit against the bars, the tongue, depending on whether or not it has a port, it's going to hit the roof of the mouth as well. And the scary thing about leverage bits or curb bits, shank bits, is that dependent on the length of the shank, you can have a massive increase in the amount of pressure that you're applying to the reins. So while this isn't an especially extreme bit of any sort, get in real close, pretty standard run-of-the-mill Western bit. It's a single jointed snaffle type mouthpiece, right? So especially when you use two hands independently on one of these bits, it's going to cause that joint to nutcracker. And then when you pull on the reins, which turn the shanks, it forces that point from those joints down into the tongue. So I'm causing my horse an extreme amount of pressure, pinching, and pain that she doesn't know how to get away from. And take a look at her expression. Her ears are saying, I'm listening, what do you want? But can you tell from this photo, maybe a little hard to tell, she has a kind of a triangular shape to her eyelid. Her eyelid, if she had an eyebrow, it's a little bit wrinkled, kind of pinched up just a bit. That's what I call a pain expression. She's saying, I'm a little frustrated, I'm confused, I don't get it, what do you want, this hurts, make it stop. So that bit was being used very incorrectly. Here's another shot, same ride. Hands are way too wide, way too low, what on earth? Ideally, your hands should stay, even if you're correcting with any style of bit, you shouldn't be moving your hands more than just a few inches, maybe like this. I mean, just like 6 inches max. You should have, I think the reining trainers will tell you there's a box, like a 6 or 8 inch box, and your hands should never leave the confines of that box. And here I am with my arms literally out to the sides, just pulling and seesawing and nagging and bumping, and I had no idea how to get her to do what I wanted. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to achieve it. So again, you can see my balance isn't horrible, but clearly based on the twisting of my stirrup, I'm torquing my leg out to try to get a grip on her and to keep myself seated in the saddle. So she's actually doing a pretty nice job of carrying here. Again, this isn't the canter I wanted. I wanted her to go down to a little lope like you do in a Western pleasure class. Hindsight's 2020. I would have been so happy with this nice little canter. Look at the engagement of her hind end. She had such power and ability to lift herself with her hind feet. They're way up underneath of her body. She's got nice elevation through her forehand. Her withers are up. Her neck is forward and up in a nice natural position. Her face is ahead of the vertical. I like this. I like a lot about this form, but everything that I knew told me that this was wrong, that this wasn't good. So I inadvertently trained my horse away from decent movement and into something very artificial, and I never really achieved it. Let's see if you can tell. Let's look at the angle of my saddle here. There's a little better view of the gullet. Do you see the gullet right here over her withers? That saddle's a little low in the front. I think it might be pinching her shoulders. If I could have tried that saddle back on her again today, knowing what I know, I probably would not ride her in that saddle. I just don't think it fits her well. That's a good picture of her expression there. She's just like, this isn't fun. I'm trying, but this isn't fun. So I hope that this helps you see a little bit, just a few things that you could do differently. Look at my hands, my arms there. I'm out of that little 6 or 8 inch box. My hands are everywhere. So what I would do different now is probably drop that bit for one. I don't need that bit. If I was required, say for show, to ride in that bit, then I would use one hand, and if my horse needed some time in a snaffle to learn a little better self carriage so that I could continue in that bit, that's what I would do. I would start over with a snaffle. Get my horse taught to neck rein properly, to carry herself, flex at the pull properly. And if I was so determined to slow down, then maybe get a different horse, because this horse was so nice for today's ranch riding classes. I mean, she had such nice natural gaits. But I was trying to make her into a Western pleasure horse. I don't know why. I really don't like Western pleasure. It's not my thing. It's boring to me. It's boring to her. But she would have excelled in a ranch class, just a ranch pleasure. One more thing I think you might see in your own riding from time to time. Do you notice my head and neck position? It kind of relates to my torso. I'm bent forward in the hip. Again, my stirrup's a little too short, so that may even be forcing me behind her motion a bit. That may be why I'm compensating with turning out my stirrup and trying to kind of grip there. But if you see, my seat is up out of the saddle just a little bit. I'm kind of perched on the cantle, kind of falling behind. So I'm having to tilt my upper body forward and it's awkward and it's just tense and my arms are everywhere. So now my head is being pulled back a little bit. I've got my chin kind of tucked. This is not comfortable or natural. So if you find yourself doing anything weird, like clenching your jaw, tilting your head a little bit, you got a shoulder scrunched. We're all asymmetrical, so everybody does a little, shoulder shrug now and then. But if you find yourself doing this kind of a thing, it may be a sign that there's an issue in your seat or your leg. Most of these issues work their way up through your body. So from time to time, I might find myself kind of clenching my jaw, awkwardly kind of holding my tongue to one side, some people may just be concentrating, but oftentimes I find if I've got tension in my head, neck, or jaw, it might be something lower down the line. In this case, I would have simply dropped my stirrups a hole or two. In all three of these photos, same thing. Drop those stirrups a little bit more. Slow down to a walk and a trot. Work on relaxing. Leave the horse alone, because she clearly did not need me to be riding her so aggressively. I was really trying to micromanage her when she was already cantering along so nice. Just relax. Sit down into that saddle. Even ride stirrupless for a bit and work on stretching my legs to the ground. Work on getting a proper bend in your elbows. So whether you're riding English or Western, I'm going to try to get a view here. If your hands are out like this, straight elbows, it's going to round your shoulders. So what you should be able to do, whether your hands are low for riding on your horse's withers down here below your horn, or whether you're riding with more of a direct contact on, say, an English horse, you should have a bend in your elbow. A straight arm leads to a rounded shoulder. Straight elbows, like this, should come straight down, and then ideally from your elbow through your arm, through your hand, all the way down the rein into your horse's mouth should be a straight line, if at all possible. That is going to give you the best, most neutral shoulder position so that you're not tense and hunching up onto the saddle trying to keep up with your horse. It just throws everything off when you have your arms all out everywhere. Just keep your hands in that little imaginary box. It's like having a little, I imagine now, if I was riding in a Western saddle, like the front of my saddle horn, there's like a little fishbowl. It's about the right size. Little round glass fishbowl. I want to keep my hands inside of that fishbowl the entire ride. If I need to be doing a one-handed ride, I'd put my other hand down, whatever it is for your discipline. Some of them may have your arm at your side. I think that's horsemanship. Generally, it's just rest your free arm down by your leg. But if you're correcting that horse, your hand should be within that same little fishbowl, and you should just be making minor adjustments, whether that's an up, a back, side to side, whatever it is. You do not need your hands moving 6 feet in every direction. These are split reins. You can see how long they are. they're flapping clear out to her side. So I probably should have gone with a shorter split rein because this isn't a terribly big horse. And then I needed to shorten my reins pretty drastically. Ideally, I'd just ride in a snaffle with a loop rein, or, you know, one single rein that goes all the way around the neck without a split in it. But take what you can from that. If you see any of these habits, send me a message and I'll help you be able to work through them. They're totally fixable. Like I said, hindsight's 20/20, and once you know better, you can do better. So good luck.